Hi, Maria. How are you?
Great, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you so much.
So I chose to interview you because of our work together at the Senior Center.
Great,
I met
yes.
you about 2 years ago now.
Wow.
And you run our Memory Cafe program.
Yes.
It's here once
Love
a month.
it. Once a month. That's
Wonderful.
right.
So
Yeah,
I
thank
just
you.
thought that you'd be a wonderful person to use for this project.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to ask you some questions about environmental gerontology and
Sure,
see,
yes,
and get your perspective on it, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely, and I love that we're meeting here at the Council on Aging.
Yeah.
And you might be able to see that we're actually here and people are here, and that's
Yeah.
a wonderful thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, well, I got my master's from UMass Boston in gerontology, so it was a management of aging services program. So I had actually taken the course that you're taking right now, which is great.
With the same instructor, I think.
Yes!
So Mary, you might recognize her.
It's just the way things work. We didn't seek each other out like that.
No,
It just
I know.
kind of happened,
Sometimes
which
things
is
happen
great.
organically,
Yes,
which is great.
absolutely. So I do a lot of volunteering and a lot of work that's not so, for example, you mentioned the Memory Cafe. That's a volunteer thing. So what that is people who are experiencing cognitive decline, they get together in a social environment and just have fun for a little bit. And so it's really nice and supportive.
Absolutely.
Then I also run a Coffee with a Rotarian program, which needs volunteers if you're interested.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
And then I work with older adults, and I love it. It's great. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks so much for being here. So I'm going to start and just asking you some questions.
Sure.
And I'm really interested to hear some of your feedback.
Nice.
So the course that we're taking right now is on environmental gerontology. And so for this assignment, we're interviewing, engaging an environmental aging services professional. And one of the first questions is, are you familiar with environmental gerontology? I know you took the course.
I took the course. And
besides,
Yes, and I love it. I love environmental gerontology because it lets a creative flair, it lets you work creatively to help other people.
Absolutely.
And so I just love that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what do you, in your perspective, what do you think of when you think of what an environmental gerontologist does?
I think of the setup at home foremost, first off and foremost. So it is a chance to evaluate the home life, make sure that everything's safe, and to see if other services need to go in place. Not so much like a social worker, but more of like fixtures and making sure that the pathways are clear. And not that we want to do that ourselves, but we let people know that, hey, you've got to let your space be clear here because that person's going to need it. There's an example I had recently where there was a client of mine had a hospital bed. Insurance will often pay for a hospital bed, and so the mattresses that come with that are usually thin and they deteriorate quickly. So what somebody like ourselves, environmental gerontology, we would recommend a mattress to go over that. So they have those 8-crate foam mattresses, right, and they fit on the sheets and it just makes things easier. The skin can breathe.
Yes, absolutely.
And it makes life more comfortable. Yeah,
comfort is huge.
So that's the type of thing that we look at.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Do you have an idea for which professional fields collaborate in environmental gerontology?
Yes, so builders, architects, designers, so Council on Aging,
yes, of course.
right? Also fire departments, police departments, all that. There's a whole lot that goes into making at home or a facility appropriate. And it's also much better to build it with that person in mind from the beginning rather than retrofitting it afterwards. Of course, we can retrofit if there's money for it, but it's cheaper if we're building it in the first place. Build it with these things in mind, and it just makes life easier for the people who are living there, and also more cost effective than fixing it after the fact.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the recent one of the recent studies that we were doing a couple weeks ago was talking about design and the differences between somebody from, let's say, designing something from the senior center versus a designer, and what they would be thinking about and what we would be thinking about, and some different terms that they may be the same term, but how that term would be different for them versus for us, thinking about our patrons.
Right.
So it was really interesting to hear about how, working with the design field and how that implements affects this community.
That's so important.
So what impact, have you ever worked with an environmental gerontologist?
You know, I haven't yet, so I'm really looking forward to working with you when you finish the program.
Wonder what things we could do here.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that exciting?
That would be really, that's really exciting.
That's really fun to think about,
What impact do you feel like the physical social environment has on frail older adults?
Yeah, so it has a lot of, the impact is enormous.
So much, right?
Right. So when we talk about frailty, I also think about mobility issues. Yeah. So we want to make sure that there are no trip hazards in the home. Yeah. So of course, we want to make sure that there are no wires laying around, or we want to make sure that make sure that the chairs aren't in the middle of the room, because people with cognitive decline will have vision problems, at some point or other. So we want to look towards the future also, because even though they might not be having issues with that now, if there is a diagnosis of cognitive decline or mobility issues, then it's best to be proactive about that.
Yeah.
But you're talking about frailty, which is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So we're sitting on a sofa that for some people might be hard to get up out of. So there are little design features, little mechanisms that we can get that would, that could attach to the sofa, or even sofas that lift up. So it depends on the person.
Yeah,
but there are all sorts of tools available to help.
It's amazing once we start thinking about this.
Right.
As environmental gerontologists, and like what we see, and now we want to fix it immediately.
Right.
I'm constantly looking at things now, thinking, "Oh, that's not going to be safe for this person," or "We should fix this."
Right.
Or "How is somebody going to navigate that?" And things that you don't think about until you're in it, and then you start to notice all the little things and how it would affect somebody.
Yeah. That's excellent.
Especially when I, took care of my mother for some of her surgeries, and I saw how she was unable to do certain things because she was frail and recovering, and the things that we could do to help her adjust. There's so much that people can do.
There is, and it's wonderful that you're thinking about this.
Yeah.
Because it's great.
Such
You can
important.
really improve people's lives by doing
Absolutely. So this is works very well with you and your work. If you had a client with dementia of the Alzheimer's type, what sort of environmental modifications might be helpful to improve his or her quality of life?
Yeah, that's great. There are several things I can think of right off the bat. One is we said, to declutter the place, because you want to simplify things. You don't want to have overstimulation, and you don't want to have things that people might not know what to do with, things that get in the way. So got to kind of make the space clear and safe. When I talk about cords on the floor, I don't just mean electrical cords. I don't mean just extension cords and things. I mean the lamp cord.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You got to hide that.
Yeah.
So where it's not seen.
Yeah.
Okay. Because things progress, and they might pick up the cord, and I've actually seen this. I knew a gentleman once who took the lamp cable and cut it with a scissor. I don't know how he lived through that, but he did. Right? Yeah. So keep the scissors away. Keep things away.
Simplify.
But also vision will decline as time goes on. That's just part of how the disease progresses.
Yeah.
So people will often have trouble at night finding the way back from the bathroom to the bedroom. Yeah. So what I found is helpful is to fix a rope light as a pathway, almost like an airline strip.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. But you just got to make sure that it doesn't become a trip hazard.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And you need to be able to plug it in and out, because you don't want that thing going, you don't want it lit up during the day necessarily, but But something like that can be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing that has come up recently, color coordinating things, like colored toilet seats.
Yes.
So they know that like, some people, if they were having difficulty with that, if vision problems or once their memory is declining, that they see that and it triggers that is where the toilet seat is.
Right.
So that's something to help them remember.
Exactly, that's a really good point, because the toilet, most of our toilets are just white, right? And so you have this white stuff, where it helps to have something colored on it, right? Same thing with food, as people progress with this disease, they tend to be less interested in food. So one way of helping them with that is getting a colorful plate. Like, as long as they're not colorblind, right? Get a red plate. If they're colorblind, then you gotta get maybe a yellow plate. But so it's good to find that out, right?
Yes, that's a good point.
But so a red, I like ceramic. I don't like plastic plates. Nobody likes to eat off a plastic plate at home. So make sure it's a nice plate, and then have the food on top of that, and then they can see the difference in the food, right? A little bit.
The visual excites them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question I have is, what is your familiarity with age-friendly communities movement?
I love that. So Ipswich is age-friendly in a lot of ways. So we're a walkable city. We have that designation. We have that age-friendly designation from Massachusetts. And the reason for that is because we have sidewalks going through the middle of town out to the grocery store, and we have a sidewalk connection. Sorry for the hand movements.
That's how I talk, so I get it.
Yeah, thanks. But also we have benches in designated area where people can rest and stop and sit and relax. We have trash bins, public trash bins where people can dispose of something. There's a river walk where people can walk, that's away from traffic. It's like more of a recreational thing, but it's right downtown, so that's really nice. And there are benches there and places to sit and look at the view and whatnot, right? And it's also a social place because people gather there, and we have concerts there and things, so that's really cool. But there's a caveat to all that. Something that I don't really like about Ipswich is that we haven't fixed our sidewalks. So a lot of them are in disrepair. They're crumbling because they're old, or because if people use ice melt on it or whatever, and they're falling apart in a lot of places. And then we have trees growing up, and it's kicking up the sidewalks in some places. And the reason that's a problem is because when we're walking on the side, we don't want to trip on the tree roots or on the grit, and also the mobility scooters, those nice, wonderful electric scooters, they can't get over that stuff.
We have a few patrons that use those.
Right. So they can only go so far before they get stuck, and they can't go any further, or they have to go around. But I don't know what they do. But
so there's so many amazing things that Ipswich has, but there are things that they need to improve upon so we can remain an age-friendly.
Right. Well, one thing, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we have this Riverbend facility, which is wonderful.
Beautiful.
But the sidewalk stops before that. So the sidewalk only goes to the Atlantic Center, and then there's about, I don't know what that is, maybe a quarter of a mile with no sidewalk, and it's a busy street. And then it continues a quarter of a mile after that with no sidewalk, and then again there's a sidewalk after that. It's almost like they planned to have that facility without sidewalk. I don't know, that kind of bugs me.
It's something to certainly improve upon.
Right.
We had a patron come in the other day, yesterday actually, and she was explaining how her children don't live nearby anymore, but she's still here, and they're all concerned about her. And she says, "Look, I live in Ipswich. I can get every single place that I need to get except the beach." And she's like, "And I'm working on it." She said, "But I can get myself to the post office. I can get myself to the bank. I can get myself to the senior center, which then could drive me to some place that's a little bit too far for me to walk." But she said, everything that I need, the library, I can get food because I can walk to a local, just grocery store. She said that it's so amazing for her to be able to access so much in a small community. And it's allowing her children to be at ease because she can do all these things just
That's
on her
huge.
own. It's huge. And she
Yeah.
has all the resources that she needs. And she was
That's
just
huge.
saying how delightful it is to be in a community like that has these resources for her.
Yeah.
So
And the little coffee shops.
yeah, it's just a very
Right.
like you said, as long as the sidewalks remain intact.
Yes.
But I think there's certainly some room for improvement with that
Right,
because
right.
it is important to remain an age-friendly community. We certainly wouldn't want to lose that. Once you have that, that's really important. To
Right,
make sure
right.
that
Well,
we're-
on that line, a lot of these buildings in Ipswich are older, so they're grandfathered in as far as codes and
Yes,
things. So
yes.
we have some restaurants downtown with gigantic steps that are really difficult for people to get up and down from. And I'll point out Mayflower. I love that place, Mayflower, one of my favorite restaurants. But they have this gigantic step that's really difficult for anybody with mobility issues to get up and down from. You know, love them, but it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing that some people just wouldn't even think about that.
Right.
Doesn't even cross their minds.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they're not navigating from somebody else's perspective.
Right. Oh, I gotta mention too, the train station here is really good.
Yeah.
You know, it's
We do
nice.
have patrons that ask
Yeah.
for rides to the train,
Yeah.
but they can go to the Boston. They can access doctor's appointments. So a lot of people can walk to the train because it is right downtown.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you say about the beach, that they can't get to the beach, which is really interesting because we have, you know, several beaches in town.
So something that we
Yeah.
started to work on in terms of having
right.
our van take people to the
Well,
beach.
even, you know, it's not even really, you can't really even walk to the beach because
Right.
there's no sidewalks on
Right.
either of those roads that go out. It's not really safe to bike there either
Right.
because, so that is an issue. But I'm glad that people are thinking about it.
Yeah, we've been thinking about it here to try and
Nice.
create some sort of a trip weekly or something to get them there.
Oh,
'cause
I
it
love
is
that.
so important.
Yeah, well, that's one of
Yeah.
the reasons why people live here.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we've talked about in class is universal design. Do you
Love it.
have experience with it?
I do. I love that. It's such a wonderful design element. So universal design is a thoughtful design that is appropriate for everybody, appropriate for children, appropriate for older adults. It doesn't matter if you're 5 or 105, the design works. So it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And one of I think two things right off the top of my head. So, you know, access ramps.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
And make them too that people can go around. Sometimes, like the one we have here is pretty sharp. You know, you have to go down and turn. It's a very sharp turn. So if there's a way of making that more rounded, right?
Absolutely. But you could think of it as somebody needs that for a senior would need that, but also maybe a woman that is with a stroller.
A stroller,
Yep.
yes, exactly.
So
Right.
Thinking about how it fits everyone's needs, except for
Right,
just the aging
right.
population.
Also door handles, you know, the ones that go with a handle rather than a turn are really good.
Yeah.
I really like the handle ones.
Yeah.
I've started
People
putting my
have
own
a hard
house.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep, that's interesting. That's good. That's a really good point. I didn't think about that one. And the next question is, what is your familiarity with the term aging in place and aging in community?
Oh, that's really good. So aging in place is, you know, as a gerontologist, as an environmental gerontologist, we want to make sure that people can, if they want to age in place.
Which is a very important piece
Right.
of the puzzle.
Some people want to stay in their home and they never want to leave and they want to like live the rest of their life in their home, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what we're talking about. Not everybody wants to do that. But for the ones that do, that's what we're talking about, aging in place. And so we want to make sure that the home supports that, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be stairs or you know, lifts. For example, in my mother's house, the living room goes out to a deck. But between the living room and the deck is this lip that's about that high, right?
Okay.
And she has tripped over that.
Sure, yeah.
So, you know, those are design elements that, you know, if they're thought about at the time of building or before building, those things can be incorporated to be safe, but it's really hard to know, you know, remove the whole door and fix it, right?
Yeah,
It's not going to happen.
Nope, it's not going to happen.
So you're aging in a social what did you call it again?
Aging in place, but then aging in community.
Aging in community, thank you. So that's also keeping the community resources in mind. So a lot of times, if somebody's aging in place, you want to make sure that they don't get lonely.
Yes.
Okay, you want to make sure that if they're homebound at some point, that they have access to those resources.
Yeah.
So that's where the Council on Aging is really helpful.
So important and helpful, yes, for so many people.
Right, right. And so there are some little organizations here and there that help with that, but it's aging in community is really important, I feel.
Yeah, we were last week we were researching villages.
Yes.
And one of the villages, I was researching one in Newburyport. It's similar to the Council on Aging, but beyond in terms of access, maybe in the evenings or outside. We close at 3:30, right? So there are other resources available in other communities that extend beyond what we could do. But it was amazing to hear about places like that, because I wasn't familiar with that term villages.
Yes,
in terms of an aging community.
And they vet they should have vetted resources, for example, handymen or taxi drivers or whatever. So they should be able to vet them ahead of time, make sure that they're safe and they're not going to come and rip them off, right?
True.
So you gotta have trustworthy people to reach out to.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Like some of the communities that we have in here, or some of the housing places like Carolina or Agawam or Colonial Drive, would you consider those to be aging in community in any way?
Partly. So Caroline Ave has a community center. It's a small one that has a community center in there, and there's a person running that, and they have programs there, and they have meals, and Meals on Wheels is centered there for the town of Ipswich. So that's partly, but there's so much more that we can do. I think for the most part, the areas that you mentioned in town here are really just places for people to live.
So just more housing instead of community.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. That makes sense.
I think Caroline Ave, has a little bit of that, but not a full extent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So given your current knowledge of the field, environmental gerontology, where do you see the field going?
I really see a lot of potential, because I think people are starting to realize that, if I want my mom to age, if she wants to stay home, how are we going to make that happen, right? Nobody wants to, well, I'm not sure nobody, but majority of people, I would say, don't want to see their parents go into a nursing home, right? So most people, I feel, want to age in their home and continue living there, especially if they've lived there for, decades and decades, right? It's not always the case, but so I think there's a growing awareness for that.
I think the education piece is huge in awareness.
Right?
There's so many people that just don't think the way environmental gerontologists think.
Right.
And so educating people, at like a place like here, like the senior center, we are able to educate people in some way, because they'll call and say, hey, my mom needs services, what do I do? And then we can say, okay, these are the things that would need to take place in order to get her resources.
Right.
So I think it's a combination of knowledge, seeking out that knowledge, being interested in learning about it, and the people that take the time to seek out those resources.
It's so hugely important, though. If somebody's looking at nursing homes, I go to a lot of nursing homes, visit people. And I've seen some that are really awful, 6 people to a room, and then on each side, and then a bathroom shared between them, right? It's, and I've seen 2 people and 2 people, 2 rooms of 2, and then a shared bathroom, and that's also, it's
a challenge.
It's unnecessary, all right? And then you've got blank walls with nothing, with some of these places have the flowered edging on the walls. It just makes it look old, right? As a gerontologist, we wouldn't design it like that. We would have, we would skip that floral thing on the top, and we would put nice things on the wall, maybe decorations or something that means something to that person,
We were talking about that, like it means something to them too, right?
Right.
It's important.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
We were talking about that recently.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't have the option of designing things themselves, right?
Right.
But to be able to collaborate with those designers to make space as inviting as possible.
Yeah.
For the people that can't age a place, because we know that there are some that just, it's not possible right now, right? So to be able to educate some of those places to help with their design is a huge step going forward.
and to think that it doesn't matter, because I've seen it, I've seen places with holes in the wall, it matters.
Yeah.
Anybody who lives with a hole in their bedroom wall is going to be depressed, right? It's just
Absolutely.
So and depression can cause further disease and decline and death, really. So it's hugely important. There's one other example, if I could backtrack a little bit, if that's okay.
Of course.
When we're talking about designing for mobility impairment,
yeah.
I was visiting a woman who is wheelchair bound. I was visiting her in her apartment at the assisted living facility.
Yeah.
She had a handicapped room.
Okay.
But the reason I laugh is because when she's in a wheelchair, she goes to use her kitchen sink. If this was her sink here, she has to go like this in her wheelchair and go over. And that's a handicapped room, right? Yeah. So what they should have done was a space for her legs to go in, right? How crazy is that? It's just somebody wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
Same thing with the bathroom door, okay? They should have a sliding door so the person can just go like this and like that, but instead they have to maneuver around and open the door and then maneuver back, like how are they to have
interesting
to have to use your hands to move? And
so
then
whoever designed that room should have been thinking of
they should have contacted us, right?
Or they should have, they don't have that knowledge that we do, to think about those little tiny things.
It's little, but it's huge.
It's huge. So even my mom, who had a walker at one point, she couldn't get her walker fit it into the bathroom to be able to get into her shower.
Right.
So we had to take the door off altogether. So then she could go from her bed, stand up with her walker, and get into her shower.
I'm glad that you did that.
We just took the door right off. And we said, forget it. We don't need this door. No one's in here.
Right. That's a good modification.
It's just, sometimes just those modifications are huge. But the design, the disconnect between an environmental gerontologist and a design professional is massive at times. It's a massive disconnect.
Right. They're just not thinking that way. They haven't been trained to think that way.
Of course. No. And unless you're trained to think that way, or unless you have, this is what you do for work, or you have an aging parent, or you're taking a course like this, most people don't think that way.
Yeah. Another thing that comes to mind is, people have the ceiling lights, right? We don't want anybody who's frail going up on a ladder or going, climbing the chair.
Something that I would do, probably.
Right? Or can you imagine somebody getting up on a chair with wheels or something to fix the light bulb, right? We don't want that.
I can imagine. I've done it.
I have too.
My son still laughs at me because I was going like this in the chair.
You're balancing.
He's like, oh, no.
Right. So we can design it differently, right? We can design it to have the light on the middle of the wall so that even a person in a wheelchair can change the light bulb.
Yeah.
Okay, so
There's so much to learn, but I see a lot of potential for growth here, for sure.
Yay.
Well, those are all the questions that I had.
Okay.
Do you have anything else that you want to share, or anything that comes to mind?
Oh, thank you so much. I feel like we've covered a lot.
Yeah,
so,
we have.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.
This is great. This is fun. It's fun to talk about these things.
It is. It's just to gain more knowledge too from people that have experience with it and get their perspective.
Well, I love talking about these things.
Yeah.
Because they're important to me.
Yeah, of course.
And it's so nice that it's important to
It
you,
is very
you know?
important to me, yes.
So it's just wonderful.
And just the information that I've gotten from this just in the past couple months is
Nice,
just, and as I mentioned to you before, being able to work here, get your perspective, get all these, like read these articles, take this
Right.
course, learn about this, and then piece it together with my current role and then my aging parents is
Yes.
amazing.
That's
It's
wonderful.
like all the dots are connecting, right?
Yeah,
And,
no, I'm so glad that you're able to
it's
do
great.
this.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I look forward to sharing my essay with you once,
Yay!
once I'm done writing
And I'll
it.
share the video. Hopefully
Yeah.
it comes out all
That'd
right.
be great. And hopefully we'll have a chance to work together at some point.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
That's
you. I really
awesome.
appreciate you taking the time.